Hey, this is Mark Lewis of ESPN, and you're listening to the Seleção podcast.
Simões bending one for Torres. Eusebio. Oh my word! Have you ever seen anything like that?
Bem jogado por Simão, a passar por dois adversários. Simão a tentar oferecer o golo a Figo e a bola é golo! O golo de Figo!
Rui Costa já acreditou, vai tirar para o golo, atira golo! 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 Cristiano Ronaldo, vai embora Cristiano Ronaldo! Bateu, golo, 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 golo! Chuta! Gol! Gol!
And we welcome you to episode number 63 of the Seleção podcast, a proud partner of Portugal.net. My name is Danny Pinto. I am your host. Thank you so much for tuning in once again, whether it's on via the podcasting app of your choice, whether it be Apple Podcasts or Spotify, Google Play, or if you're watching us on YouTube.com. If you are, go ahead and hit that like button and hit that subscribe button in order for you to get an idea of when the next Seleção podcast will be popping up on your feed. But we had on the last episode, we had our review of the Portugal and Spain 1-1 draw in Spain as Portugal escaped with a draw after the 1-1 result. They get the point away in Spain. They now travel back home to Portugal to take on Switzerland at the Valade. That is on Sunday, June the 5th. And to help us preview that match, we are bringing back an old friend of the program where we talked with this gentleman at the beginning of our coverage of the Nations League in terms of the semifinals in 2019. We'll be talking with Craig King. He covers Swiss football on the English side of things, and he'll join us here momentarily. But just a reminder to follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at selecaopod. Facebook.com/selecaopod. Email the show, selecaopod@gmail.com. And, of course, bookmark our website, selecaopod.com. I mentioned all the ways you can follow us and listen to us on via podcast. And, again, make sure you hit that like button and the subscribe button on YouTube. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and bring on Craig King. You can follow Craig on Twitter at FootballSwissEN. Again, Craig, it's nice to talk to you again, bud. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me back on again.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks for making some time for us. Let's get to your side of things on in the group, as Switzerland, after day one of group play, are the only team without any points. They did lose to the Czech Republic 2-1. An own goal in the second half was the difference in that matchup. How did you see how things went in that match for Switzerland?
Well, from our point of view, it was probably one of the worst performances we've had in quite a while, and quite a surprise for everyone, because we've been on such a high since probably before the Euros, and then the Euros tournament itself with some of those results, and then that carried on against Italy in the qualifying for the World Cup, topping that group, conceding only 2 goals. So the performance, and more so the defensive performance against Czech Republic, was the most surprising thing. Both goals were really preventable goals. That it was just so uncharacteristic of a Murat Yakin team. And as I said, they only conceded 2 goals in that qualifying campaign in a group with Italy. So again, it was a surprise. And offensively, it wasn't what we've come to expect. The starting 11 had a kind of front three of Mbolo, Okafor and Ruben Vargas, who hadn't played together at all for the national team. And it was, on paper, a very exciting attacking lineup, but it just didn't seem to work for whatever reason. And yeah, it just all came together for a poor performance. And I think people are you expect more. It was always going to be a tough away game in Prague, but you expect more from the performance, and that was the most disappointing thing. wasn't really a Switzerland that anyone recognised.
We're talking here with Craig King. He covers Swiss football for on Twitter here, and he is joining kind enough to join us for some time as we kind of get a lay of the land in terms of where Switzerland are at after game one of group play. Again, coming off of a 2-1 loss, but they head to Lisbon to take on our beloved Seleção on Sunday, June the 5th. And as we look at the standings right now, it's Czech Republic with 3 points, Spain and Portugal getting the draw, and Switzerland with 0 points. You mentioned Murat Yakin. He took over following the Euros with the Swiss bowing out in the quarterfinals. You do have a very experienced roster, leaders that have been part of the makeup of the Swiss national team for quite some time. Grant Xhaka is the captain. You have Shaqiri back in the fold. Obviously Benfica fans know Haris Seferovic, and Jan Sommer is still part of the squad. Talk to me a little bit about Murat Yakin and his approach with these guys, and kind of the indoctrination of some of the younger players with this Switzerland side, and kind of what are the expectations following the quarterfinal appearance in the Euros, the expectations of what you kind of hope to see, and what Swiss fans kind of hope to see, not only in the Nations League, but in the upcoming World Cup?
Well, I think that in this group, we knew that it was going to be tough, because you're in there with Portugal and Spain, two kind of bigger nations. And I think the priority always, and I think it was the same in the previous Nations League group that we had when we had Germany, Spain, and Ukraine in there, you want to stay in the group. Obviously, Switzerland, before, they've had surprising results against bigger nations, so there's always that feeling that you can maybe upset the apple cart, so to speak. But yeah, you want to avoid relegation. So going in that game against Czech Republic, you were hoping to at least get a draw, so that you can build on that and puts you in a strong position in regards to avoiding relegation, but also gives you a bit of a platform to try and cause issues at the top end of that table. But yeah, the priority in the Nations League is to avoid relegation. You don't want to go back down to League B. But again, yeah, disappointing that the result happened the way it did, and it kind of extinguishes any hope of maybe surprising in that group. As for the World Cup, I think the last few tournaments we've always wanted to World Cup 2014 was to reach the last 16, fantastic achievement for the team. 2016 Euros, again, same stage, great achievement. And then the World Cup again was the last 16 in 2018. And then when it came around for the Euros there was a feeling that you wanted to progress past that a little bit, because you don't want to just always be seen as a team just stopping at the last 16. And when we got France, I don't think anyone gave us a chance. We didn't give ourselves a chance. And of course, what happened. One of probably the most special night for Swiss football, or the national team in any case.
Sure.
And so yeah, that was a big surprise, and it showed what the team was capable of. Even against Spain, to go out on penalties, we really ran them close and could have reached a semi-final. So there's a lot of expectation now, because we know what this team's capable of. In the past, we've exited at the last 16 to teams like Poland and Sweden, who are very good teams, similar level teams to Switzerland. But there's the feeling now that we need to be beating these teams if we can do what we did against France and Spain. So for the World Cup, I think last 16 is a bare minimum. And then again, see where the journey takes you. I think the team is always surprising people. I think it has done for many years now. I think people underestimate Switzerland in general. And again, yeah, I just think that the expectation will be last 16, and then there's the hope that they can go further than that. A group stage exit would be very disappointing, but again, it's a difficult group that they're in. I think two of the teams we had at the last World Cup in the group again, so not much variety there either, but everyone should know each other pretty well. But yeah, it'll be interesting, but yeah, getting out of the group is the ambition there.
Yeah, and in the World Cup, you guys open up against Cameroon, then just a day at the park against Brazil, and then and then finish up against Serbia. Craig, for all us Portuguese fans, please take care of Serbia. Just a little
Yeah.
sum for us for there. Here we're talking with Craig King here on episode number 63 of the Seleção podcast as we preview the Portugal-Switzerland match in the Nations League on Sunday, June the 5th, in Lisbon at the El Valade. I talked about this a little bit with Eric Vieira, who was our previous guest on episode 62. And given anytime you are in a group setting, a loss is obviously a detriment to advancing, or in this case, not only advancing but perhaps surviving to not get dropped down to Group B. Because Switzerland is coming off of a loss, do you think the urgency to get, at the very least, a result is at a higher level, given the fact that if, for whatever reason, you don't get a result on Sunday against Portugal, a third of your group play is already done and you wouldn't have any points to show for it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure in that respect. And I don't know if we would have kind of set aside any points from this fixture before any games were played. I think maybe the game against Czech Republic would have been the one where you try and get a point, or maybe 3 if you play really well. The games away to Portugal and Spain, you're probably expecting to get beat there. But yeah, that puts a lot of pressure on, and I think you need to really get something now. I believe our next 2 games after that are at home. But even then, if we come out of this game against Portugal with a loss, then you're already trailing pretty massively at that stage, especially in a kind of condensed group like the Nations League. So yeah, I think it is important to at least try and get a point. I wouldn't put it past this side to go to Portugal and do that. They're capable of doing it, but I think a lot of things need to change from the game against Czech Republic, and I think there will be a response in general. I think there'll be some lessons learned from what was a poor defensive performance. I think we'll see some different faces in there, and I think it'll be better overall. But again, this is a massive game against Portugal, a massive test. We know how good Portugal are. All you guys know how good Portugal are, so it's not going to be easy. And if we do lose, I don't think anyone will be particularly annoyed, but the performance has to be better. If again it's a defeat that there's mistakes in there and there's not the performance level that's required, then I think there'll be a lot of disappointment there, some anger towards the team and manager because of what happened against Czech Republic. But if we are defeated in a game where we put everything into it, then it's a lot easier to take. So I think most people from this game will be looking to the performance more than the result. If they can get a result, fantastic, but it needs to see a response from the defeat the other night there.
We're talking with Craig King here on episode number 62 of the Seleção. Check that, 63 of the Seleção podcast. We're previewing Portugal and Switzerland, the match on Sunday in the Nations League. I asked this in a very loaded question, and I kind of want to go back to it just to have our fans get more familiarized with our opponent. And again, I mentioned that Murat Yakin took over a squad that nearly made the Euros last year, I should say. Obviously, I spoke about this, or when I had Alan Feely on, I should say, from Football España. He talks about soccer and football not being a lateral progression of result just because you went from the round of 16 to the round to the quarterfinals. Soccer and sports is not just a progressive kind of step-by-step process. So when you have someone taking over like Murat Yakin, and you have these older players that have been part of that progression, it's natural to feel like these guys are ready to take the next step. What has been the response to the hire of Murat Yakin? obviously we have experienced players, but who are some of the players, maybe the up and coming players that we are to be looking forward to and kind of keeping an eye on, especially with the match on Sunday at the Avalat?
Yeah, so when Murat Yakin was appointed, myself included, it kind of felt underwhelming. We had Vladimir Petkovic there for almost, I think, 7 years, and he achieved so much and really transformed how the team played, how the team was viewed, and of course how the team performed in these tournaments. So then when you appoint Murat Yakin, who at the time was managing in the second division of Swiss football, you kind of are expecting a bigger name than that, and that it just wasn't what people expected. Not saying that he doesn't have pedigree there. He managed Basel to 2 titles a few years ago, and he was also manager in Russia. And he's got some credit to his managerial career there. But at this point in time, he was back in the second division, doing well. But you wouldn't expect him to jump to a job as big as Switzerland after their performance in the Euros there. So it was a surprise, but I think the performances in the qualifying phase for the World Cup in the last 5-6 games, especially the games against Italy, home and away, really kind of put people at ease about what he was going to do with this team. Even against England in the friendly in March there at Wembley, again, the performance was a really mature performance. It was only a friendly, but it kind of showed again this team can compete with anyone. And Murat Yakin has them well drilled and quite defensively strong, and that's why the result against Czech Republic was so surprising. So yeah, I think people are coming round to the idea of him as manager. As for the players to look out for, I mentioned a couple before: Ruben Vargas, Noah Okafor. They play at Augsburg in Germany and Red Bull Salzburg in Austria. 2 young players, 2 very exciting players who are really kind of making their mark in the team now. There was a time where they were mostly bench players, as they're still young, obviously, and but now they're coming through there to be first team players. We also know Breel Mbolo, who his Switzerland career hasn't been particularly great so far. I think a lot of injuries have hampered him, and he's not really reached his potential. But again, against England in the friendly and in the last few games, even against Czech Republic, you could see the threat that he had, the pace, and even I believe he scored in the game against Portugal in the I think it was the World Cup qualifying, the 2-0 win in Basel a few years ago. So he's always a threat there, but most people, of course, know about him. And there's a few other players coming through that probably won't be involved in the game against Portugal. Zeki Amdouni, who isn't with the main squad, but he was on the backup list. He's one that could come through for Switzerland too. But again, it is mostly a lot of kind of, I don't want to say old guard, because you've still got players there like Shaqiri and Xhaka who can still be and involved in the team for 3-4 years to come. But it's a good mix of experience now and a good mix of these younger players coming through. And I think the future looks bright for the Swiss team overall. And again, I think that the team in general, it'll improve from, I think the other night there was a blip, and hopefully it was a blip. Otherwise, the game this weekend could be a nasty one.
Last thing before we go, Fernando Santos, the Portugal manager, mentioned how truncated these 4 matches are in terms of a 10-day period. That rotational lineups and rotational subs and just a rotational approach, for lack of a better term, is how he is going to be taking on the Nations League for these 4 matches in June. Has that been a discussion at all from Murat Yakin's kind of point of view as to how he's approaching the Nations League matches, given that the domestic season ended just about 1 or 2 weeks ago, depending on who played in Champions and who finished up their domestic seasons?
Yeah, I've not really seen much from him that says he will do that, but I think it's clear in this run of games that there's so many games to play in such a short period that there will be a lot of rotation, and I think we will see rotation from the game against Czech Republic. I don't know if that played into his lineup against Czech Republic. I mentioned that he had the three front players in Bolo, Okafor and Vargas, who hadn't played before together. And then the defensive four that we had with Rodriguez, Widmer, Elvedi and Fabian Schär, they'd only played together once before, a 4-0 win against Lithuania. And I don't know if, as I say, I don't know if that played into his thinking with that lineup, but it clearly didn't work because the defence just looked totally all at sea. So I think there will be changes, especially defensively. We've got options there with Fabian Fries slotted in there in a couple of occasions, and hopefully Manuel Akanji, who is normally always a starter at centre-back, he had an injury before the game, before the last game, that he couldn't shake off in time, so hopefully he might be fit for the game too. But yeah, there'll be changes across the team. Even I'd expect Shaqiri to start because he didn't start on the game on Thursday night there. So there'll be changes throughout, and I think again, another 2 games to come after that, we're going to see pretty much a usage of the full squad.
Well, Craig, I can't thank you enough for making some time for us here on episode number 63 of the Seleção podcast. I'm glad we were able to reconnect again after, and ironically enough, it's in the Nations League again, as we had you on to preview the semifinals back in 2019 when Portugal made history in becoming the first inaugural champions of the competition. But greatly appreciate your coming on the episode. Make sure you guys follow Craig at football-swiss-en. Make sure you let him know he did a great job here on episode number 63, and he's a great follow for football overall. So give him a follow. Tell him that the Seleção podcast sent you. So Craig, all the best to you, and good luck to Switzerland on Sunday.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, and best of luck. May the best team win.
And that will do it, folks, for episode number 63 of the Seleção podcast. Again, my thanks once again to Craig King. Follow Craig on Twitter at football-swiss-en. That's FOOTBALLSWISSEN. A game that, in terms of both teams, a not so much a must win, but in terms of trying to, it just depends on your perspective of things. Portugal, if they want to win the group, they got the business done away, getting a point in Spain, following a very questionable approach, to say the least. But they did get that. They did get that point against Spain, and have all to play for in front of them, with matches against Switzerland and the Czech Republic sandwiched in between that final match against Spain. But first things first, the home match against Switzerland on June the 5th, this Sunday, at the Valade. Make sure you guys tune in to that one wherever you are able to. Again, you can follow the show on so many podcasting and social media platforms, Twitter and Instagram at selecaopod, facebook.com/selecaopod, email the show selecaopod@gmail.com, bookmark our website selecaopod.com. You can again subscribe to us via Apple Podcasts and Spotify if you haven't. If you would be so kind, give us a 5-star rating and a slight just a nice word or two of kind of support for the show, so that way we can be as visible on all podcasting platforms as possible. And of course, if you go to youtube.com/the Seleção podcast, hit the like button for this video, all our videos, subscribe to us, set your alerts so that when a video drops from our account, you are one of the first to see it. That will do it. That's going to do it right here on episode number 63 of the Seleção podcast. I have been your host, Danny Pinto. Our thanks once again to Craig King for helping us preview Sunday's matchup against Switzerland. We are, of course, a proud partner of Tom Kundert and the good folks at Portugal.net. We shall see everyone on Sunday for the game. And as always, Força Portugal!